this man is saying that his womb connects to his butthole, and he poops blood, and therefore he must be ovulating.
Good evening and welcome to News Center Maine's Voice of the Voter Democratic Senate debate. I'm Rob Caldwell, along with my colleague Phil Hirschkorn. For the next 2 hours, you're going to hear from 8 candidates, each of whom hopes to be Maine's Democratic nominee for the United States Senate.
The Democratic Party needs a new nominee to take on Republican incumbent Susan Collins because the candidate who had locked up the nomination, Graham Plattner, withdrew last week.
I think it's fair to say that there are varying degrees of recognition you have, but for certainly 2 of you candidates, 99% of people in Maine had never heard of you 48 hours ago, maybe 6 or 7 minutes ago.
Well, the senatorial race in Maine, I think in my title I will describe it as eye-opening. And it's not just Ashley Webb that's eye-opening, at least I hope eye-opening for the liberals, for the Democrats who need to cut themselves away from the liberals, but really just the fact that senators don't need to know anything about their job, about politics at all. They can just be random people with completely deranged, deluded beliefs, not just in regarding their ovaries that don't exist, but also regarding politics and what should be done for the sake of the country. I don't know. I guess people just grow up. I mean, wouldn't you? You just grow up thinking that your governors and your senators and your congressmen and such, they must know what's best for the country, right? Because they've been trained in these sorts of things. They know what to do, right? Well, before I'm going to get on to Ashley Webb, which is of course the star of the show, you gotta have the star of the show as the last, right? But so before we get there, we're going to cover just the intro of some of the other people. This is from Voice of the Voter, is what they're calling it. It's from News Center Maine, which I will link. There's 2 parts to this. Part 1 covers 4 people who previously ran for governor. This man here is one of them. I'm not going to cover those 4 because they are a little bit more politically inclined. And then the other 4, which it's just a cascade failure in that part, with Ashley Webb being at the end of the failure. So the whole point of this, Voice of the Voter, remember, that's what this is called. You can see it in the background once I get going. The Democrats have decided that they don't really want to have an election. It's about Graham Plattner pulling out because of all the accusations he had, and I don't think I ever covered Graham Plattner because I don't think any kind of candidate needs to be perfect. There's a lot of he said, she said, Me Too's and things like that always go around, and it's like, what can you do when there's always going to be someone accusing you? That would mean that no one can ever hold the position, right? But a tattoo is it's pretty hard to argue a tattoo. So I always felt like he was sort of low-hanging fruit to go for. And yes, Ashley Webb is lower hanging fruit. I mean, it's straight up a bad apple. And normally I would prefer to just spend my time playing a video game than make a video about harvesting bad apples, but it's fun to hate on Reddit every now and then. You know, the entire reason I made this channel is because I hate Reddit, because of all the crap Reddit said, and I kept seeing it, and I got fed up with it. This is a Redditor if I've ever seen one. So I feel a need to say something, plus Voice of the Voter, when they're basically not letting people vote. I mean, they're kind of just shoehorning Troy Jackson into the next Senate leadership role. There's not really any voting going on, it seems. But let's start with David Costello. This is the first candidate.
My name's David Costello. I'm a former senior-level government official, and I'm running for the United States Senate to help in ending the Trump administration's reckless assault on our democracy, environment, and economy, repair the considerable damage that's already been done, and enact reforms to protect against future assaults and ensure that all Mainers, not just the wealthy, are provided with the education, job skills, health care, housing, and other life-enriching resources to thrive. I ran, as was told, in 2024 because I believed that Washington was broken. Well, you can imagine what I think now. To fix Washington, we need to nominate the candidate for the United States Senate whose background, knowledge, and experience most sharply contrasts that with Senator Collins. Having grown up in a working-class family in Old Town and having served for more than 27 years in senior-level government positions, I believe that I'm that candidate. I'm asking for your support. And for more information, check out CostelloForSenate.com. Thank you.
Now, I let him do his whole intro because he actually seems like, out of the 4 of these, it's basically left to right, competent to incompetent. So he seems like the most like an actual politician. I mean, who would have thought the old white guy would be better at politics? I mean, it's not like it hasn't worked before in like pretty much all of our recorded history. Well, next is Lizzie.
And it's really important for people to vote blue to get that seat in Democratic hands for food security for all, health care for all, housing for all, to abolish ICE, and to reverse climate change and end the war. Thank you for listening.
And that's Lizzie. She's got her Maine tab in her book, if you happen to notice that. Now, she is she's just, I don't know if she's a feminist or not, but God, she sounds like a feminist. Like, and anytime you hear someone with this very childish, simplistic mentality, you kind of just get the vibe that they're a feminist, because like the feminism is basically women not needing to know anything about the world and demanding equality and demanding equal treatment and demanding equal pay and all of this, but they don't really know anything about the world, so they're demanding it like a child would demand it. So here, what she's basically saying here, what I'm hearing is like an 8-year-old, maybe even younger, that they've put like a political shirt on and they've taken them out to some sort of rally, and then the kid gets interviewed. You're interviewing the 6-year-old, and they're like, I think that everyone should be nice to each other, and everyone should get as much ice cream as they want. That's what I heard. That's what I heard when Lizzie was speaking. I heard a small child being interviewed by a reporter, and the child gave an adorable but incredibly stupid answer. And now we have Dan.
I'm not a career politician. I'm a husband and a father raising 15-year-old twins alongside my wife, Beth, a nurse from Lubec. When I was in 6th grade, my parents split. I lived with my mom. Shortly thereafter, she was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And I watched her go through numerous...
Yeah, Dan, I'm just going to stop you right there. You know that you're supposed to be giving your intro for why you should be the senator of Maine, right? What the hell are you doing, Dan? What are you talking about, Dan? I mean, honestly, this is the worst one of all. Like, Ashley Webb's, at least Ashley's, it might be insane, but it's their truth. It's their truth. It's theirs, specifically their truth. Not the truth, but their truth.
I'm Ashley Webb. I'm from Farmington, Maine. The biggest thing I'd like to get across is that we need unity. Whoever wins this nomination, we need to show up at the polls, we need to vote for them, and we need to make sure they win no matter what, because what's going on in this country is not right. With the immigration and immigrants are being targeted, they're being rounded up like animals. It's not acceptable to allow this to go on in our streets. And then with the trans community, like, we're being dehumanized. They say that we want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt anybody.
Pay close attention to their right eye, because they're about to drop a single delicate tear.
just want to use the bathroom. And if they want me to use the men's room, I will, but I don't want to be assaulted. And as far as like this, what happened in Biddeford, it's unacceptable. We knew since January that what ICE has been doing with Alex and Renee.
All right, let's move on to the questions.
Right. So they basically just, and this is what a normal person sounds like when they get into politics, but they don't really get into politics. When they hear politics, but they don't get invested in it. Ashley Webb is that person. They're that person. And then they think that something horrible is happening, but they don't really understand it at all. So they want to use the bathroom, and they're fine using the man's bathroom. Hey, kudos to you. But they don't want to be assaulted. How often does that happen in the USA? I never hear stories about men going into the man's bathroom and assaulting some transgendered person in there. I never hear that story. Now, has it ever happened? I mean, there's hundreds of millions of people in this country, so I would suspect that it does happen. Might even just go unreported. But and yeah, you could make it more dangerous for yourself. Like if you were some 20-year-old man who's transgendered, you're skinny and you've got implants and you're all dolled up and you look pretty and you look like a woman, and maybe you've got all the hormone treatments and such, and so you sound like a woman as well, and you go to a club and you go into the man's bathroom. I mean, now you've done every single thing possible, and you're probably, dressed like a hooker as well. Now you've done everything possible to put yourself in danger. Well, yeah, I mean, just going to a club alone is going to put yourself in danger. But when is it normal for men to just assault transgendered people in their bathroom? Like, does that ever happen? I never hear about that, and yet we hear these things from the left wing as if it's an everyday occurrence, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing how this is an everyday occurrence that you just, I mean, no, even once is terrible, right? But they say it as if it's some sort of like gotcha, like it's their super weapon or something. Something happening once doesn't mean it's some sort of pivotal issue. What is a pivotal issue, I would think, is a 6 foot something, 400-pound-ish man going into the woman's bathroom. I mean, I'd be a bit worried about this guy being in the man's bathroom with me. They're huge. They could easily bull rush me to the ground and there'd be nothing I could do about it. You have to, I mean, look at the woman, the actual woman. She's got a stool to step on to I guess they can't adjust the microphones or something. I don't know. She's got a stool to step on to elevate her. Meanwhile, Ashley is taller than everyone. He's taller than all 4 of the men. And much, much taller than that woman. So, I think that if you were in the bathroom and you just don't want to be assaulted, again with that just, then you're probably the one people are most scared of. Like, let's be honest. Now, most of their talking points here are hammering on these very obvious things that the leftists say, like ICE bad, Orange Man bad, war bad, free food, free healthcare, etc., etc. I'm going to play a little bit more of Ashley because they are the star of the show, but then we're going to move on to some of the stuff they said off of Voice of the Voter, which, as you can see in the background there, the Voice of the Voter won't matter, though, because they're all going to put their weight behind Troy Jackson and the votes. Well, you don't really get to vote.
Actually, what qualifications do you have to serve in the U.S. Senate?
Oh, I ran for office several times. Didn't win, but I did run. And then I'm a songwriter, and then I write my own books, and then I suppose my transparency, I wouldn't lie to the people and I wouldn't deceive the people like we're being deceived right now. Like, we get lied to, smoke and mirrors, like what's going on with ICE, pretending like these victims did something wrong. Like, that's unacceptable.
Well, they did do something wrong, though. The Maine situation and the Texas situation in Biddeford and Houston, they did do something wrong. I mean, they came into the country illegally, and as far as we know, they attempted to flee ICE. According to ICE, they attempted to roadkill ICE, but I suspect they attempted to flee, which is also wrong. So they did do something wrong. As for transparency, yes, the Ashley seems very transparent. They do seem transparent. And again, they say they wouldn't lie, and I believe them. I believe that this is their truth. I believe that they really believe this. And that's kind of what worries me, the fact that they're allowed to stand where they're standing and run for Senate despite believing what they believe. And what do they believe exactly? Well, I could play more. I mean, we're only 8 minutes in. I could play pretty much all of these high points in the timeline is Ashley talking. So I could play all of those, but like I said, it's just going to be like Reddit talking points. They're not a politician. They don't know much about politics. They just have this distant idea of what republicanism is, of what anything that's anti-democrat is, and they believe that it's some sort of evil that needs to be squashed or something. And the singer, songwriter, all of that, like it's just feminism, really, isn't it? I mean, it's feminism, and I'm sorry, like I don't mean to be cruel to Ashley here, but putting your grandma's dress on doesn't make you a woman. Like, you need to do more than that to be transgendered. And well, Ashley doesn't even. I don't think they even believe they're transgender. They say they're intersex, and they believe some pretty extreme things. Here is a tweet by @swiperight, and I'm not entirely sure if this is their actual account saying these things. Sparky603, a Reddit. I guess they actually are a Redditor, but there's some more to come after this that really confirms that they do have some pretty unhinged beliefs. So in these Reddit posts, they say, I am trans. My pronouns are she, her. So here they say they're trans, but later on they say they're intersex. They use God a lot as a reason. However, their God made me the way I am, and their behavior is going against their God's wishes. That's very frustrating to me. I'm an atheist, but all the time, and this has been going on for a very long time. Gay people many decades ago were saying, God made me this way. It's just an excuse to try and manipulate the person you're talking to into siding with you. And that's what Democrats always do. You're trying to manipulate the religious person by telling them that God made me this way, because that's what the Bible says, right? God made us all in their image, so God made you gay. It's just a manipulation tactic. They go on to say, I was born in a way that my body produces male-level testosterone and female-level estrogen. My estrogen fluctuate like a woman's estrogen does. I have a cycle in which I get monthly cramping, like pain accompanied with bleeding. I ovulate as well. Well, transgendered male to females don't ovulate, do they? So again, they must be saying there's something besides trans. The doctors and specialists are baffled. Baffled, are they? FYI, my birth certificate says that I am a male. Yeah, I can bet that. Clearly, God screwed up big time when making me. Well, I believe you feel that. They go on to say their karyotype is XY, so these people don't get to say I'm a biological woman. I don't know by what meaning they mean get there, because you can say it either way. But yes, you're XY, okay? Yes, we know. When I'm having this monthly period pain and it's not too bad, I feel something in my right side about where my appendix is located above the bladder. When the monthly pain is real bad, I am feeling something in both my right and left side above my bladder. Strap in for this one. When you don't have the proper hole, it finds one of two exits. The guy in China was lucky and the exit was his bladder. Me, on the other hand, not so lucky. My exit connection was made with my colon, because when I get this monthly pain, that is where the blood comes out of. Intersex like us don't get diagnosed until our 20s, and we tend not to be born with extra holes. First of all, women are not born with extra holes. They're born with the correct amount of holes. And, oh God, I mean, it's like being in the Ant-Man skit from Quantumania. How many holes do a human have? It wasn't funny in the movie, although I suppose the movie was so bad that might have been one of the brighter moments in the movie, but it wasn't funny in the movie, and it's certainly not funny in real life. How have we gotten to this point where we're sitting here talking about how many holes people have and where their blood comes out of? And here they're saying that this guy in China, I guess, or girl in China, has their ovulation go through their bladder, but for Ashley, it goes through their colon, and so they poop blood. So just to be clear, you don't just have, it's not like blood just manifests, right? Like now I'm not a woman, so I'm not really like super knowledgeable about these sorts of things, but isn't it like your womb sheds the outer layer of its skin, and then all of the skin and the blood that of course comes from your skin being sloughed off, that sort of oozes out of you. You know, obviously there's other changes like hormonal changes and stuff that happen, but like isn't that where the blood comes from? It's not like just blood appears for no reason, right? There is a reason. It's so the umbilical cord can connect to the womb more easily, right? With like being raw skin, isn't that? I've never gotten anyone pregnant, and I'm not a woman, so I don't plan on getting anyone pregnant. So I don't really know if I'm exactly accurate here, but this is on, like, I haven't looked this up beforehand. This is just what I'm thinking from what I've gained via osmosis of how the reproduction system works, or what I learned way back when I was 10. And isn't that more or less what happens? And here they're saying that this man is saying that his womb connects to his butthole, and he poops blood, and therefore he must be ovulating. Or maybe you need to have a colonoscopy. And also, if you had a colonoscopy, couldn't it prove that there's no hole connecting to your colon? Why don't you just have that done? But liberals wouldn't believe you even if you told them the truth. They say here that they didn't get diagnosed until their 20s because they were dealing with incompetent doctors who preferred to prescribe opiate painkillers rather than find the problem. You were dealing with doctors who just wanted to get you out of their door and really shouldn't have given you painkillers because there was nothing wrong with you. Or, well, maybe there is something wrong with you, but it could be any number of things. It could be Crohn's disease, it could be IBD, it could be IBS. I mean, the thing is, how much blood exactly is coming out? Because the thing is, the rectum tears very easily. That's how, like, AIDS and stuff spreads much more with gay stuff than hetero stuff, right? It's because you bleed more easily in the back door. Like, what why am I talking about this? Jesus, like, why, God, it sucks so much having to do this. And it's all because of liberals, man. Well, pretty positive I am XX type, except I got the internal organs. What is that even? Internal organs? Doesn't that, you should have external organs, right? If you were XX and there was something wrong, then you'd be XX with external organs. Oh God. Remember what I said before? They say, this is the last post here, I don't like talking about monthly rectal bleeding because when I talk to the doctors about it, it tends to get me a colonoscopy that turns up nothing. And talking about the pain gets me CAT scans that turn up nothing. And then you just choose to not believe the evidence. Wow, isn't that convenient? And that's what liberals will always do. They will always disbelieve the evidence and always scream in your face and demand you to obey their deranged, warped reality. And their reality is saying that CAT scans can't find a uterus and ovaries when they enter your gender as male. They use different scanning processes for females. You can justify absolutely anything with enough selfishness and enough mental gymnastics and enough magic mushrooms. I don't know what the hell's going on with some of these people. But again, this is just Reddit posts that may or may not be them. I don't really know. I've not tried to find out if they've like officially claimed that this is them. I don't need to, because they've gone and said something on webcam that is, I mean, it corroborates the insanity, so to speak.
Where I was experiencing hot flashes and I asked the doctor to run an estrogen test, and I guess they don't do that for
No,
for men,
no,
supposedly,
right.
But
So you're saying, so the idea being that you had ovaries, but or you have ovaries, I suppose, that were generating estrogen, but not necessarily ovulating.
Oh,
is what you're saying?
I don't know about the ovulation. Because I do get symptoms too that I was until I went on the estrogen patch, which went away completely. During that time, like, I also leak like a mucus, which they can't really explain.
Yeah, so they seem to be on board the crazy train, and yeah, you can feel bad for them, but they don't belong in the Senate. We know that. They don't belong in the government. We know that. Finding your grandmother's dress in the attic and putting it on doesn't make you a woman. It doesn't mean that you have ovaries. You're not menstruating. I don't know what's wrong with you, but I'm sure there's something. Now, moving on, again, I do want to cover this because Troy Jackson is he's the follow-up to Graham Plattner, who was ousted for all those accusations and such, and who knows if it's going to happen to Troy Jackson as well.
Democrats appear to have a new Senate candidate.
We're not from the left, we're not from the right, we're from the bottom, and we're rising.
Former Maine Senate President and logger Troy Jackson securing 481 of 500 delegates' support, according to his campaign, and triggering a series of suspensions as others like Nirav Shah pull the plug on their push and fall in line behind Jackson.
We're well on our...
See, they're basically just giving him the Senate position now. They've stopped running and they're giving him the Senate. That's, by the way, this man whom I opened with, if you remember him. Basically, you don't get to vote. It's called Voice of the Voter. You don't get to vote because they're all just going to stop running for Senate and allow Troy Jackson to become the senator, which, great. By the people?
I'm a Mainer, a dad, a fifth-generation logger from Allagash. I'm a progressive. I've been tested. I've won time and time again in deep red Trump country by double digits. I've won in progressive cities like Portland and Bangor. I know what a tough fight looks like, and I know how to win. Because working people know I have their backs. They know me. They know my values, and they know my character. We can defeat Susan Collins. The movement that you've built can win. So I'm in. I'm in this fight with you. And I'm asking you for your support so we can take back this Senate seat and send Susan Collins packing once and for all.
I do like how they've made Susan Collins into some sort of like demon queen sort of character. Like, I know they're all trying to replace her for Senate, but they've all made her out to be some sort of villain as opposed to just saying like why they're better. Like, they don't need to be a villain necessarily for you to be better. Like, they could be a good person. They could be a good senator, but you could still just be better, right? And that's not the narrative. It's always trying to tear them down and climb over their corpse. But yes, there's quite a lot of people, this is the Washington Post, quite a lot of people reporting on how the Democrats are rallying behind the logger, Troy Jackson, to replace Graham Plattner. So, and you can see, he said he wasn't left or right, but they're from the bottom and they're rising. Well, this sign here says this is something about the 14th Amendment, so infinite immigrants there. We are, can't really read it all. It's something about kids in the world, something about justice, something about the earth, and it's colored like a rainbow, or at least it's trying to be. I mean, look, I see 2 black women, a whole lot of women of various ages, and a few men so old that you can count their ages by the wrinkles on their faces. This is the left wing. This is the left wing. A bunch of women, liberal women, and a bunch of boomer men who are made of pure soy, and then some minority groups. That's the left wing. And this is not what the left wing's voting for. It's just what they're going to get. They're going to get Troy Jackson, regardless of whether they want him or not, because all of the other people are pulling the plug on their Senate race, and they're just going to let him have it. And that's really the main takeaway to have here. It's not Ashley Webb. I mean, you know, you can laugh at Ashley if you want, but I mean, they made the choice to put themselves in that position. I don't know where they got the confidence to do that. I don't know where a lot of people get their confidence. I mean, there's countless women who are just fat and ugly, and yet they feel like they need to dress like a hooker and walk around in public, or put content of themselves on the internet dressed like that, or less dressed for that matter. I don't know where they get the confidence to do that, but they put themselves on that pedestal. So, you know, they get whatever they get, I suppose. But this guy, he just shows up and everyone's like, oh, wait, the proletariat is the working class. We can use this guy. We could replace Graham Plattner with him. Cool. That sucks for you guys, I guess. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. It's just I know it's a low hanging fruit. It's a bad apple, but it really, the thing that really like twisted my gears on it was the Troy Jackson part. Really, like, that's what threw me over the edge and made me want to make a video about it, because all of this peacocking that all of these people are doing up on stage, the voice of the voter, they're calling it, and in the end, it's probably going to be some guy who just has the Democrats, the political Democrats, backing him, and then a bunch of, you know, soy men and women backing him. Well, good luck with that, Democrats. Good luck with that, and, you know, have fun with your crazy liberal men who think that they have ovaries. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please do the YouTube things.